Good morning, everyone. Canada soldiers bravely on with AstraZeneca, says Jean-Marc Benoit. He says, also notable is the use of the term jab, most commonly used in boxing. Right? Ireland hits pause on AstraZeneca jab over blood clot concerns. Not so good, not so good. Here's Frank McVitie's take on this. Ireland's deputy chief medical officer said that while there was no conclusive link between the vaccine and the cases, Irish health officials are recommending the suspension of the vaccine's rollout as a precaution. Right, we'll just be better to be safe than sorry, right? You don't want to accidentally do something you wouldn't want to do, right, or wouldn't want to finish or anything like that. Here's the Global News article on it. Ireland, Netherlands temporarily halt use of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. Irish health officials Sunday recommended the temporary suspension of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine after reports of serious blood clotting after inoculations in Norway. Dr. Ronan Glynn, Ireland's deputy chief medical officer, said the recommendation was made after Norway's medicine agencies reported 4 cases of blood clotting in adults after receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine. He said that while there was no conclusive link between the vaccine and the cases, Irish health officials are recommending the suspension of the vaccine's rollout as a precaution. The Netherlands, too, will suspend the use of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine until at least March 29th as a precaution, the Dutch government said on Sunday. The move, which follows a similar decision by Ireland earlier in the day, is based on reports from Denmark and Norway of possible serious side effects, the government said. Yes, but Canada will soldier on, right? Here's CP24 that says AstraZeneca finds no evidence of increased blood clot risk from the vaccine. They investigated themselves and they came up with conclusive evidence that they're fine. No problems. AstraZeneca PLC said on Sunday, a review of safety data of people vaccinated with its COVID-19 vaccine has shown no evidence of an increased risk of blood clots. AstraZeneca review, which covered more than 17 million people vaccinated in the United Kingdom and European Union, comes after health authorities in some countries suspended the use of the vaccine over clotting issues. Quote, a careful review of all available safety data of more than 17 million people vaccinated in the European Union and UK with COVID-19 vaccine AstraZeneca has shown no evidence of an increased risk of pulmonary embolism, deep vein thrombosis, or thrombocytopenia. Sorry, I forgot that one. In any defined age group, gender, batch, or any particular country, the company said. Authorities in Ireland, Denmark, Norway, Iceland, and the Netherlands have suspended the use of the vaccine over clotting issues, while Austria stopped the using a batch of AstraZeneca shots last week while investigating a death from coagulation disorders. So I scroll down a little bit. The AstraZeneca vaccine, developed in collaboration with Oxford University, has been authorized for use in the European Union and many countries, but not yet by the U.S. regulators. The company is preparing to file for U.S. emergency use authorization and is expecting data from its U.S. phase 3 trial to be available in the coming weeks. Why do we need to? So like the emergency use authorization is different than the FDA approval. And all the Pfizer and all of the other ones, they only have emergency use. They don't have the other ones. They don't have FDA approval. They have FDA emergency use approval, right? And those are different things. It's interesting to me. It's interesting to note, right, that they're going for it and they're saying nothing to see here, nothing to worry about, right? Here's Sky News. COVID-19 Oxford AstraZeneca jab is excellent and no reason not to use it, says who? WHO says who? Indeed. Shots in arms, says John Tory. That's it. That's the tweet. Goodness me. This what's her face person? She's got like 60,000 people subscribed to her. I'm a little disappointed. I've like a quarter, a third of hers. Less. Goodness me. Anyway, good for her. She's very smart. Very on point. Bam, she gets it. Very, very short videos to the point. She's got it monetized, right? She's got her Patreon going. Go check her out though. She's funny. Worthwhile. I'm not trying to tear anyone down. Good for her. Glad it works. Instead of this making headline news tonight, CBC had an entire segment discrediting the deaths, saying they don't apply to Canada's vaccine shipment, which are safe. If you believe them, you're part of the problem and will most likely be first in line to pay the price. Unfortunately, maybe. And it says Children's Health Defense between December 14th, 2020 and March 5th, 2021, 31,079 reports of adverse events were submitted to VAERS, including 1,524 deaths, 5,500 serious injuries, and 390 reports of Bell's palsy. I mean, it's interesting how we get all of the up-to-the-minute breathless stats for COVID-19 deaths, up to and including unfortunate erection dysfunction, and yet the media doesn't want to touch adverse events from vaccinations. That's only anti-vaxxer talk, right? You don't want to get that on you. It's hard to get off, like lipstick, right? My friend was talking, or my wife was talking about a friend of hers whose daughter found lipstick and decided to paint the bathroom. And apparently lipstick is very difficult to get off the fixtures and things in the bathroom. It's like more sticky than, anyway. I don't know. Anyway, back to this. John Tory says, I want to thank EP Davila for her expertise, guidance, and conscientiousness through this pandemic. Her leadership at Toronto Public Health through these difficult times has been invaluable. Really? This can't be posted enough times. In response, Dr. Davila is using inaccurate death metrics to fearmonger and lie to people of Toronto into radical compliance. Her husband, Dr. Richard Choi, has officially received $200,000 contribution from both AstraZeneca and Bayer for consultation services in 2020. Dr. Eileen Davila will be criminally responsible for crimes against Torontonians, says this meme. So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, right? It's probably not as compelling as a warrant or something like that, but people are upset with the leadership of Ms. Davila, and they don't agree with John Tory's assessment that her leadership has been steady and conscientious. I mean, if you're a small business owner, I mean, was she conscientious through the theft of the property of Adamson's barbecue, right? Of Mr. Skelly's barbecue place? Well, she shut it down. She took ownership of it, right? Very conscientious, very nice. Oh, hello, I'd love to have this barbecue place. Yes, we'll shut it down now that I own it. Lovely, for public health. This is for your safety, sir. Conscientious leadership, right? I'll shake your hand. No? Okay. On Monday, Ontario's vaccine booking website will officially launch. The province says they're ready with more than 2,200 operators answering calls at the capacity of about 10,000 calls per hour. How many people are there a lot of people signing up for this? Even with the AstraZeneca news, I fear there are a lot of people still signing up for this. There are a lot of people who are perfectly happy to hear nothing to see here. It's fine. Everything's perfect. You should have the vaccine as soon as possible because it is important or something. But when is another time where we have a virus or another human condition that has 99 point whatever percent survival rate, and we've now got mandated, or not mandated vaccines, but we've got the whole country shut down basically. We've got commerce shut down. We've got essential only. We've got Toronto shut down for what? Until we get a vaccine? It seems crazy because the vaccine is looking like there's potential issues with it, and I don't know. I'm not somebody who can see into the future, but there's other people who think like maybe this is a little bit wrong to do this, right? This is Dr. Michael Yeadon. I've probably got that wrong. He says, not justified, quote, you do not vaccinate people who are not at risk of a disease. You also don't set about planning to vaccinate millions of fit and healthy people with a vaccine that hasn't been extensively tested on human subjects. Former Vice President and Chief Scientist for Allergy and Respiratory Disease, Dr. Mike Yeadon. Yeah, essentially, if you are healthy and you have every reason to believe that you will come through a COVID infection fine, what is the compelling reason to take a vaccine? I don't see it. It is difficult for me to agree with the value proposition of this is important for you and your community for you to take this in order to minimize my symptoms. I don't know. But they're pushing for people to get the vaccine. They're pushing for people to sign up for this. And I think that that's really strange as well. So here's Hazel Joff. And she said, just received call right now, rescheduling my second Pfizer shot from this Tuesday to July 2nd, a postponement of 4 months and 1 week. As an 82-year-old, I'm shocked and infuriated. CBC's Dr. Peter Lynn expressed concern re-sufficient antibodies after 4 months at 80 plus. What are the Liberals thinking? And this is Melissa Lanceman, not Lastman. She says, my friend Hazel is 82. She got her first shot weeks ago. Her second one was rescheduled to more than 4 months from now in July. This is not okay. This is not even a little bit okay. But it seems to be just fine, right? I know the federal government is trying, says Doug Ford. They're doing their best. All I'm just pointing out is we just don't have enough vaccines, Premier Doug Ford says. Well, I think that we've got lots of examples of places that are open without the vaccines. Lots of places that are open without them. And the vaccines are, suspect. In lots of places, they're stopping the AstraZeneca, as we just watched. Here's an exchange between Evan Solomon and Dr. Tam. Here we go.
Close to 600,000 Canadians have had the second dose. Can they, for example, if they hug their loved one who hasn't had a dose, can they asymptomatically transfer it to someone? Or can they just kind of, we're safe now, we've had the vaccine, we're going to function normally, come over for dinner?
Well, for now, keep up with those precautions because there's two reasons. One is that if you got vaccinated, it's never 100%. So keeping up with some of these personal protective layers is still important. Can you transmit to someone else if you're vaccinated? That we don't know yet, but there's more and more data that shows that it's quite likely that those who are vaccinated are less likely to transmit, but that data is forthcoming.
So this is very clearly experimental. We don't know yet. So, if you're around other people, you should probably stay distanced and masked and whatever. So the value proposition for this vaccine doesn't look very good. It's not great for me. That's a no for me, dog. So they're going to have to make it palatable. How are they going to make it palatable? Global News to the rescue. Quote, if we don't give guidelines around people who are vaccinated against COVID and give some concessions, people are going to do what they want anyway, eventually, said one infectious disease specialist. Should vaccinated people across Canada gain certain freedoms? So we use a carrot and stick method where the public health says you must do this, and the legal infrastructure says you have no rights unless you do this. But again, the value proposition isn't all that great for me. Here's British people singing, channeling my spirit creature. Here we go. You can stick your poison vaccine up your arm. You can stick your poison vaccine. Stick your poison vaccine. Stick your poison vaccine up your arm. Yes. You can stick your poison vaccine up your arse. Yes, indeed. They just say it so well in England, right? The things, aluminium, arse, right? Yeah, they get it so right. Brian Lilly, he says, once again, the high numbers due to data problems. So today's count is actually lower. Here's Christine Elliott. And this is a regular occurrence. We had 1,600 cases reported the other day, and shortly after the report came out, it was noted that actually most of those cases were data cleaning issues, and they didn't happen on that day. It was just over the last couple of weeks, and they wanted to update that so that those counts came out on the day they were confirmed or whatever. Same with the most recent one yesterday on March 14th, Pi Day, right? The counts are too high, and it says today's counts are higher than expected due to a data catch-up process related to the provincial CCM system. For questions, please reach out to Public Health. There's no caveat in the announcement, though. The announcement's all doom and gloom, right? We failed the most vulnerable, Dr. Tam's biggest takeaway after a year of COVID. Here's an interesting juxtaposition, okay? See what's focused on by Dr. Tam, and then I'll show you the impact. The biggest lesson, Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Theresa Tam says that she learned from the experience with COVID-19 a year into the pandemic is that we failed the most vulnerable. I think the tragedy and the massive lesson learned for everyone in Canada is that we were at every level not able to protect our seniors, particularly those in long-term care homes, Tam said in an interview on CTV's Question Period. Even worse is that in the second wave, as we warned of the resurgence, there was a repeat of the huge impact on that population. I think the tragedy and the massive lesson learned for everyone in Canada is that we were at every level not able to protect our seniors, particularly those in long-term care homes, Tam said in an interview on CTV's Question Period. Even worse is that in the second wave, as we warned of the resurgence, there was also a repeat of the huge impact on that population. As of March 11th, the one-year mark since COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic, more than 22,000 Canadians had died after contracting the virus, which over the last 12 months hit Canada's seniors the hardest, with outbreaks experienced in care homes across the country as well as in workplaces and communities where people are in close quarters. So we locked down the whole country. Tam said that it was a positive indication now that seniors and other vulnerable groups are being prioritized for vaccination. However, systemic changes still need to be implemented to ensure the vulnerabilities the virus has exposed are addressed. Her reflections echo the key takeaways from the Public Health Agency's 2020 annual report, in which she called for structural change across health, social, and economic sectors in the wake of COVID-19. The report highlighted the disproportionate health impacts experienced by workers who provide essential services, racialized populations, people living with disabilities or mental illness, and women. It also includes recommendations on how to improve the country's pandemic preparedness response and recovery. The report says among the changes Canada needs to make in light of the COVID-19 pandemic are improving employment conditions and conditions inside long-term care homes. Okay, increasing access to housing enhanced Canadians' ability to access social and health services. There are calls for change that governments have acknowledged, but months after the report was issued are largely still left unanswered. So that's focus on the young people. We need structural, sweeping changes. Okay, that's what Dr. Tam says. Here's Roman Baber, and he says 250,000 waiting for life-saving surgery in Ontario, 60% drop in cancer surgeries last spring, 36,000 delayed, almost impossible to recover from the backlog. Don't blame the pandemic, blame modeling and government. Cancer cardio surgeries are non-essential, unforgivable. And this is CTV News. Crisis brewing as COVID-19 derails life-saving surgeries at Canadian hospitals. Interesting what our our medical officer of health is focused on. She wants to get vaccines in arms. And we're looking at a catastrophe that dwarfs COVID-19, and nobody is giving it the time of day. Nobody is giving it any kind of mention at all. And that's unbelievable, right? Like that's very, very scary. In fact, I'm going to put this here because I think this fits here before moving into the mask thing I'm going to show you. The mask thing didn't really fit anywhere, so I thought I wasn't sure where I was going to put it. So it goes after this. Here is Rex Glacier, and he says, concerning the Conservatives would rather bully Patty Haydu at committee instead of limiting or listening to an infectious disease expert like Dr. Bogosh. That's the difference between playing politics with the pandemic and listening to experts, right? So, and Rex Glacier doesn't say that. Pam Damhoff says that, and Rex is responding to that. But this is what Pam says, and basically, it's vilifying the Conservatives for not accepting, without question, the doctor's testimony or the doctor's statements. So we're not supposed to even question. And if you question, you are a bully. You are a bully. And the funny thing is, I haven't heard back from the Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph Board of Health. I've asked them officially to delegate at the April meeting. And last time I got a response. This time, no response yet. So I'm going to resend my questions soon. Regardless of that, I think that it's interesting the next day, the same language about me came out. Well, no, it wasn't about me. They said online bullying. I don't think it was about me. Who knows if it was about me, but I don't know if it was about me. I didn't think it was about me initially, but some other people said, that was probably about you, eh? And I said, no, I don't think so. I think that they were upset about online bullying. And then they looked at me and they were like, do you read your Twitter? I was like, I'm not bullying people. I'm asking questions that demand answers. Like, it's like you've got that chainsaw there and you're walking towards me as if you're going to cut my leg off with it. First, stop. Number two, what's your intention with that chainsaw? Stop bullying me. Like, okay. I won't bully you, but please don't get me with that chainsaw. Anyway, here's this guy. What is the thing? Did anybody see the dad? I think he's a Toronto dad, and he was in the bathrobe and the toque, and he has a 12-minute video, and he's quite articulate. He speaks well about how crazy it is to protect our elderly while sacrificing our children. And he's like, what are we doing? Why are we sacrificing our children? My point in asking you if you've seen this is like, am I missing a memo? Should I be here in a bathrobe and shirtless? I don't know. Anyway, the last couple of videos that I've seen of men have been shirtless, and here we go. Anyway, this guy's talking about how he's been doing sheetrock. He's been working with sheetrock for whatever, and he said this mask here is supposed to help me with the sheetrock. And then he takes it off and he says, "Yeah, so this mask is supposed to help me with the sheetrock, and it's supposed to help me against a virus? Are you kidding? Like the sheetrock's bigger than a virus because we can see it, and so questions abound. What are you doing with that?" Their chainsaw, man? And why are you walking towards me aggressively? Why are you wearing that Mike Myers mask? I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay, getting into lockdowns. Florida is fully reopened 6 months ago. The experiment was a success. Their death rate is now lower than the national average. Even the New York Times can't pretend to not notice anymore. I'd much rather be in Florida, says the New York Times. You know, whatever, but we need to lock down. We need to lock down and don't see your friends and family because reasons that are not good reasons. Here is the Toronto Sun. The idea that summer sports for kids, particularly outdoor ones, are not safe is not a very credible argument given all we know. We had a summer last year where kids were playing sports, and how many kids died last summer? How many kids died of COVID-19 last summer? Did we have a large death count of soccer camps that are going down with COVID-19? I don't remember that news article. Did we have a lot of numbers of YMCA camps that were falling and closed every other week for COVID-19? No. Any numbers of people in hospital for camp counselors that got sick because kids were sick because those kids were crawling all over elderly people in old folks' homes? No. I mean, I can't imagine the argument. We can't actually do this. We can't submit children or subject children to activity outside. Not on your life, right? AJK says, if after a year we still don't know enough about COVID-19 to manage it without shutting down the world, then the so-called experts who are supposed to be figuring it out should be fired and replaced. Doing this poor a job in any other profession wouldn't fly. I've said that before. I've said if I hired a plumber last year to deal with a leak in my basement, and my basement were still leaking, I would fire the plumber. I would not blame the leak, right? Ifran Dalla, and I think that he's a health science table person, but I could be wrong about that. He says, I'm starting to worry about our summer. Will we have fewer cases in June 2021 than we did in June 2020? Aiming for elimination may be the best strategy for Canada over the next 6 months. Like many EU countries, Italy just entered their third full lockdown. Unlike the others, they're having a national discussion on strategy led by Walter Riccardi, advisor to the Minister of Health, who says the switch to COVID-0 is the courageous choice. COVID-0. Ah, yes. We'll just lock everyone in their homes until they're used to it and they don't question it anymore. And the excuse is COVID-0. Nobody is interested in or advocating for getting back to regular everyday life, normal life. Nobody wants that. Federal government adding more hotels to its quarantine list. No, don't worry, traveler. You can fly and you can come back to Canada. You'll just have to spend a ton of money in the hotels that we designate. And if you don't, you'll have to go to an isolation center. Welcome to Canada. The federal government says it's adding more quarantine hotels to its approved list to make sure enough rooms are available for returning travelers. It's also warning travelers that if they can't secure a room before they're due to arrive in Canada, they should change their planned arrival dates if they don't want to risk being sent to a designated quarantine facility. As of February 22nd, most air passengers entering Canada must comply with new travel measures that include a 3-day hotel quarantine. Passengers must pre-book their quarantine hotel stay before arriving in Canada. But since the introduction of the new quarantine policy, travelers have reached out to CBC News to flag problems with the booking system. Many have complained of being unable to get through on the phone to the booking service or of reaching an agent only to learn that no rooms are available. So, you're arriving in Canada? Sorry about your luck, we're full. Bink. What are you going to do? Law prohibiting... Okay, moving into an election. So, just to sum up the COVID situation. There's lots of examples of places that are open. Places are open that are not having massive death situations that are being blamed on COVID. And yet, Ontario leadership, Canadian leadership, is bent on continuing lockdowns and continuing the measures. I don't know why. I can't articulate even what their argument is for it at this point in time. Maybe the variants of concern. But as everybody can see, the variants of concern aren't very concerning. So, I don't know. Where's this going to go? Look at last year, look at further lockdowns, and look at maybe the full collapse of our currency in order to usher in something that rhymes with me set, whatever, just speculating. Here's election, moving into the election. There is not much of a choice when all you have to choose from is the Conservatives and the Liberals. I would love to have more of a choice. I'll show you Max Bernier. He's not there. He's having speeches and stuff, but I said before, I'm not seeing the ignited fire that was there before. Not from Max. I'm talking about the population, and I don't know if it's Twitter hiding him or what. I don't know what the situation is for reasons that he's not resonating or reasons that his online profiles are being diminished. But I don't know exactly what an electoral outcome is going to achieve because, Aaron O'Toole is fixated wholly on Justin Trudeau's platform and doing it better than Trudeau could do it himself. Anyway, law prohibiting election misinformation struck down. So in the 2019 election, they said, if you say something that you believe to be true but is not true, you are liable as if you said it, believed it to be true, and all the consequences of that if it's false. And so they struck that down. It's not, you can't do that. That's not legal. And they explain the reasons why. But trying to control the speech of Canadian citizens has been the hallmark of this Liberal government, has been what they've been trying to do. I don't know if it's the only thing they're trying to do. Certainly not, I don't think. But limiting speech, limiting discord, limiting the ability to disagree, removing people from parliament and positions of power if they show themselves to be nationalists or show themselves to be patriots in the traditional sense of the word, the old sense of the word, right? Patriotic to their country. If they show any signs of that, they're silenced and removed, right? And so that's interesting. That's interesting to note. Anyway, here's the decision. A key section of Canada's elections law designed to curb misinformation during election has been struck down and declared unconstitutional. In a 15-page decision, Ontario Superior Court Justice Breeze Davies, excuse me if I've got that wrong, ruled that the section is an unjustifiable restriction on Canada's right to free speech. While the federal government had asked the court to suspend the ruling for 12 months, Davies ruled that it takes effect immediately. Quote, I recognize that if I decline to suspend the declaration of invalidity, there is a risk that a federal election might be called before Parliament can enact a replacement to S91 of the CEA, Canada Election Act. Should it wish to, Davies wrote in a judgment dated February 19th. However, that would not leave false statements during an election completely unregulated. Recourse could still be had to the civil law of defamation or the criminal code provisions that prohibit defamatory libel. The federal government has not yet decided whether it will appeal the ruling. Quote, we've received the Ontario Superior Court's ruling and are reviewing it closely, responded Privy Council Office spokesperson Pierre-Alain Bigot. Sorry if I got that wrong. So that's interesting, right? Like the law was struck down and it takes effect immediately, and basically it's up to the criminal code to police speech. So I mean, we have an active case against Mr. Kinsella for defamation against Mr. Bernier. So that's an interesting thing to note. Will there be any joy in that? I don't think so. Joy being success. I hesitate to think that that's going to be true because freedom of expression is a thing. And you're not allowed to say somebody is something that they're not. And Mr. Bernier is certainly not a racist, neither is the PPC. But proving that is a different thing altogether, right? And I don't know how, in today's day and age, with the snake oil salesmen who are inhabiting the judges' benches at some levels of our government, how we can have or guarantee ourselves to have a reasonable interaction, a reasonable outcome. That takes the traditional approach of freedom of speech is kind of the cornerstone of our democracy. I would fear that they're going to say racism has no place in our society. You owe Mr. Kinsella lots of money. Here you go. And I'm not going to rule on this because you're wasting the court's time, right? Like and I've seen it before, right? Faith Goldie had that happen, right? So I'm not holding my breath. It's very unfortunate. Anyway, Ottawa Citizen saying, it's time Aaron O'Toole made the moral case for his party. Aaron O'Toole isn't standing on guard for anybody. He's not leading the Conservatives out of their darkness into like some new golden age or anything to that effect. He's falling flat. People are not interested in what he's offering. And good luck. I mean, really, good luck. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. You know, like the people who are going to show up are being silenced and removed from the party, and people are watching that. So what are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But make no mistake, O'Toole has defined his party, and his party is what the Liberals aren't. Everything the Liberals aren't, that's what we are. We can fill it in, right? And it's not going to happen. He's trying to play the centrist. He's trying to bring the party to the center, and it's falling flat. You don't have to. I don't have to make a prediction because it's happening in real time. Hence, I mean, the moral case for his party. Why doesn't he just cross the floor to the Liberals? I agree. On Thursday, says Dr. Leslyn Lewis, a record 5,500 CPC members will come together virtually for our party's 2021 policy convention. I'm honored to be co-hosting with Archie Beaudry and excited to engage Conservatives from across Canada as we create path to secure Canada's future. I don't know. Who's going to line up behind Aaron O'Toole? These 5,000 people, okay, are all of them on board? Do you think so? Do you think the whole caucus is on board? Yesterday, there was a newspaper article talking about how during their caucus meeting, O'Toole had to tame an out-of-control party, an upset party. Hold on, I can't remember exactly the term. Restless? Tame a restless caucus? I don't know. You don't want to tame those other things. Yikes. But anyway, restless, right? Restless. People are. This is National Post. O'Toole tells restless Conservative caucus their upcoming convention can be a turning point for the party. Yes, we can finally become that Liberal Party we've always wanted to be. more than sheer took us to the center. I'll take us further to the center. Everyone follow me, right? Off the cliff. Yay. Here's Maxime Bernier. I was listening to this speech. It was a good speech. He should tell stories with his speeches. He should weave a story throughout the speech. And I don't know, regardless, doesn't matter. 20 minutes in, I've listened to it. Again, where's the fire? I don't understand what I do understand. There's media censorship, there's tone deafness from all sorts of levels of government. The CPC party is not a conservative party, but they haven't been a conservative party for a long time. They've been called racist just like the PPC has been called racist. I don't understand how we're in a situation where people are dissatisfied with politics as usual. They have an option, but there's very little interest. Is it Bernier's failing? Is it PPC's failing? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Are they not putting up enough relevant talking points? Are they not relevant enough in the current zeitgeist? I honestly don't know. I wish I knew, because I'd tell them, but they'd ignore me anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I don't get it. I don't get, people can be upset. They want pipelines. Line 5 is a big disaster. I mean, I think if Line 5 went down in Ontario, I said that the Liberals would wear it and they would never win another seat in Ontario. They might blame the Conservatives. They might say, this is the Conservatives' fault. Look, it's Doug Ford's fault. And then people will be like, yeah, we could never have another Conservative in again because we can't let them build pipelines. This is how crazy our politics are, right? Like, so when I say I'm not surprised, I'm not saying that necessarily there's been missteps from the PPC, although I feel like we've wasted a couple of years, right? Like the 2019 election happened 2 years ago. What have we gained? Less social media impact. I don't get it. Jason Kenney, his popularity is falling off a cliff, if you believe this poll, and I don't believe this poll. NDP Rachel Notley, 51%. Whoa. Hitting for the back of the arena. Oh, that's terrible. Swing for the park. I don't know how to use baseball analogies. But that's a massive majority if you get 51%. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the UPC got 60% in the last one. People are not happy with Jason Kenney, but I don't know that they're that unhappy with Jason Kenney, and I don't think that they're willing to risk the province falling back into NDP's hands any more than if they could get representation like the Wild Rose Party. But the problem is, even something like the United Conservative Party, you get somebody who talks really nice and speaks well, and then they sell you out, right? I've said for a while, I don't know what Jason Kenney's game is, but there's a game. And it's not just me who thinks that. There's a lot of people who think that, according to this poll. I don't believe this poll, but if you look at this poll, a lot of people are upset with Jason Kenney. I think there are people who are upset with Jason Kenney. I don't think there's that many. But and they're saying that there's a 25% drop. I don't know, to 30%, and NDP's Notley is up 18 points at 51%. I don't believe it, but I could see problems for Mr. Kenney in the near future, and I don't even know that a leadership review would fix that. Like, I don't know that a leadership review would eject the bad seeds from the party, because I feel like there's a lot of bad seeds out there, right, between you and me. Sneaky bad seeds. Police can't use highway safety code to end protests, Quebec judge rules. That's interesting, because I think that we've seen people being told to stay off the roadways. Anyway, here's a Quebec Superior Court judge has reaffirmed the right to protest in the streets in a ruling issued on Thursday. Justice Guy Corinier, sorry if I got that wrong, acquitted a protester who was fined under the Quebec's highway safety code during an anti-police brutality march in 2011. Police arrested 239 people during that protest, and about 150 of them were charged under Section 501 of the code, which prohibits anyone from using a vehicle or other obstacle to block a highway during a concerted action intended to obstruct in any way vehicular traffic. If I was a cop, I would read that and say, that applies, buddy. That applies, man. That applies to you. Get out of the way or I'm going to use it. But I could see the judge saying, not so much. But as a police officer, I could see why they would come to that conclusion. Easy enough to do that, especially in this day and age. People are saying masking guidelines are laws. Like, no, the law actually states very clearly that there are exemptions. And it's really interesting that people are just willing to go along with it and like to regurgitate the bullshit of you have to, right? Like you have to do this because it's the law. It's not the law. It's not the law. Would not stand up to a charter challenge if we could just get there. If we could just get to a charter challenge. Rogers, moving into finance and money and such. Rogers, and we're almost at the end of the show today too. Rogers signs deal to buy Shaw in transaction valued at $26 billion. There's a lot of people who are saying antitrust and anti-monopoly places would be all over this in other countries. In Canada, no problem. They'll let it sail through. $26 billion valuation. And Rogers will own Shaw Media, and your media choices and selection is reduced because people with money have a larger voice than people without money, right? That's how things work. Has the government spent too much too late? Yves Drew weighs in on the government spending in light of better than expected growth. So they're talking about overheating house markets and all sorts of crazy market signs. It's a minute 31. I don't know that it's really worth getting into here, but to finish the show off, I'm not going to add a minute of talking heads talking. But fundamentally, I think that it's interesting that when we were stimulating the economy, we were putting all sorts of money into the economy to stimulate it, and now the economy has been stimulated to the point of overheating financial markets and all sorts of other markets. But we've got a Main Street that's shuttered. We've got Walmart and Amazon that are being artificially inflated by our government's policies. And nobody sees this as we needed to spend this money to create this boom, to create this economic activity to justify all of the money that is being printed, the quantitative easing that's happening. And now that the chickens are coming home to roost, that the money is being created and all of this, the flow is happening. People are being left behind, and two, they're talking about this like it's a bad thing, like better than expected growth, like it worked better than we thought. Now what do we do to solve this new problem? Like it just seems like there's an endless catastrophe just on the horizon, right? And the catastrophe could be your hospitals are overwhelmed, or it could be your mortgage rates are going to go up. Here's Pierre Poilievre. And he says, this bubble will burst if mortgage rates rise faster than paychecks. Canadian household adds record mortgage debt amid low interest rates. Exactly what the government's doing. It's cheap to borrow money, so you borrow more money, right? You need a new car, well, it's free, right? You might as well borrow the money, right? Just pay back the price of the car over time, and you don't have to pay interest. The borrowing of the money was free, right? Easy, unless the borrowing rate changes, right? Which is what Poilievre is saying here. It'll burst, and then what, right? I saw a video today. Biden's change in the insulin rates made people's insulin go from $65 a month to $600 a month. Like that's a big change, right? And that's not Canada, but that's impactful, right? Money is a driver. So what happens when your money is worthless? What happens when your money doesn't mean anything anymore, right? And I don't know if that's the goal. I hope it's not the goal, because nobody wants that. Anybody who's invested in a system, anybody who's got skin in the game, and if you own property, if you own a car, if you own anything, you've got skin in the game. They don't want to reset, right? And a lot of people, their retirement is their home, right? Like their retirement money is their home. They're going to sell their home. They're going to have $1 million because that's how much a home is worth these days. And they're going to live on that for their twilight years, right? That was the plan all along. And the problem with that plan, though, is if there's a big... So if line 5 goes down, the property values in Ontario are going to be reduced, right? And that's just one impact. I mean, there's going to be other impacts as well, but... there is any number of crises on the horizon, I guess, at all times. And it seems like we're ill prepared to deal with all of them. And the things that our government is doing to prepare for all of them seems ineffective and focusing on race or equity or anything but what they should actually be focusing on. And that's frustrating. Very, very frustrating. All right, that's enough out of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I just realized it's like 1 o'clock. We just had the times change, so I'm late, but I also had an issue I had to deal with this morning, so apologies that I'm late. Good afternoon. Enjoy your afternoon, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.